Welcome back, welcome back. For all of you who have been with me since 11 a.m., shout out to y'all, man. Shout out to y'all for hanging out at Shit Happens because shit happens. I'm noticing something, right? I feel like at Shit Happens, I need to be letting people, my guests, know that to show up 15 minutes before or 10. Because they freak me out when it's 1 minute before and I'm looking at this timer and they're not there and then they appear and I'm like, damn it, you almost gave me a heart attack. Like, oh my God, but my guest is here. She's here. But every guest of mine has been showing up like on 1 minute on the dot as I'm about to be like, or some of them have been late or some of them have stood me up. I get it. This is shit happens, but come on, don't make shit happen. Like let shit happen. So we are gonna have an incredible conversation right now with an incredible, beautiful, one of the most soulful person I've got to meet. I met her last year. We were on a panel together, and she's just beautiful. Like it's incredible. So Rokhaya,
Hey,
happened.
Paula. I heard your your housekeeping about showing up. I was there, but the backstage of StreamYard is so awesome. So I was like checking my rap, I was listening to music, getting in the groove. But
But
yeah, I was here.
I saw you when you came. You came like at 1 minute. That's what I'm saying. Like I need you to come like 5 minutes before, so at least my heart is like, oh, they're here with me. Oh, how are you doing? And
I'm
everything. But
well.
when I'm about to go live and I'm looking, I'm like, oh, there she goes. Okay, cool. There she goes.
Well,
How
since
you
it's
doing,
live, since it's live,
baby?
since it's live, blame the behind the scene because
we
I
go, we
was
go, we gonna blame it at the stream yet. Stop making your waiting area so cool for people to.
yeah, I was thinking of my title for a good 5 minutes. I'm like, what should I put? What's my title? Oh my god! So it took a while, but yeah,
I mean, that's important. That's important shit to consider because people are gonna watch you and they're gonna be like, "Who is this?" Right? So your title that you're gonna put is very important. So I feel you. Those are tough decisions you had to make.
right. But how did I do compared to the three guests before? So this is what I want to know.
Well,
We all came in.
actually,
We all.
the first one is just like you, but the second one, of course, and he also gave me a message to deliver to you. Of course, he's a Nigerian, so he came in before I came in. So, and
I
then he
beg
told me
oh.
and then he was like, I was waiting for you for like 15 minutes. I was like, please stop, 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 and don't do
I
that.
knew. I knew. That can only be white label American. Shout out to you.
Yeah, and he told me to tell you that. Remind her to reschedule.
Yes, yes, I will. I will. After the game,
And,
I'm waiting for the game to finish because I know he's gonna ask me some rubbish questions. So I can't talk to
and,
him during the game.
and the thing when he gave me that message, I was like, oh shit, he had also sent me his calendar to reschedule because he lost our recording. So I was writing the message and be like, I'll make sure to tell her, and I will also get mine done. He was like, yeah, you need to get yours done too. I was like, I got you, I got you, I got you, I got you.
Yeah, good reminder. Let's book it same day.
Like he has to deal with one of us in the morning and the other one in the afternoon. Like let's
You,
gang up on him.
he's gonna have to reschedule. I just feel it. He's gonna have to
It's gonna be
reschedule.
I can't deal with both of these two people at the same
Oh
time.
no, oh no. One have to be napping, so it can't happen at the same time.
He's lucky he doesn't do live because I'd show up while you're there and be on the comments like,
Oh yes, like dropping some shit. I know you already. I know you. Like we first met through email. We didn't even meet face to face. They put us on an email thing for the panel, and man, you're the one who was emailing the most. I think. Yeah.
but yeah, but it's funny when as soon as I saw you, I literally knew who you are because you were passing. I was in a class and I texted you. I was like, I see you walking outside.
I remember that. I remember. Oh my god, it was so good to meet you though. Like I feel I've known you forever, even though we just met last year. But
I know,
yeah, thank you
right?
for having me. It's so good to
Thank
see
you
you
for coming.
again.
So, how have you been? Where are you right now?
I'm back in Canada, so I'm in Vancouver, just above Washington State. So I'm about like 2 hours from Seattle or so. So
What are
back
you
in
do?
the cold.
what brought you back to Canada?
Voice acting. So remember the writers were on strike for like almost
Mm,
while the whole Hollywood thing was going down. So it's been a good slow 2 years for us voice actors, actors in general. So now they have reached an agreement. I got a few gigs, but short story is that I never made it to the gig. So I missed it because Air Canada, the airline, the best and oldest airline in Canada, decided to cancel my flight because there was like a snowstorm at the time I was coming. So I'm just here doing my thing and working. And of course, once you get in the system, there's this whole thing that you have to be here about 183 days so I can make money from here. The whole shebang. So I'm
oh
here.
my God. So are you there with your family or is your family in?
No, my son, my husband, everybody is in Jamaica. So I decided to come by myself. It's so much easier that way. Because
To
before
just
that,
under shit, yeah.
yeah, last year was kind of hectic. Couldn't find a daycare for the boy, and I'm trying to like find this and get things done. And it's hard, like with the winter and all that. So this, I just decided this year to come by myself, and then I'll just
And,
do back and forth. Half of the
and
year,
that's
though,
good.
I'm gonna be in Jamaica, but
Because you get more done because you don't have to worry about who's going to watch over my baby, especially when you get last minute meetings or all that.
yes, like this, listen
And
at this, so calm. I don't have to be like, yes, play with this or like make those movements. Yeah.
like, yeah, my baby's going to cry in a minute, so wrap it up.
Turn off the camera, turn on the camera. Yeah, that's most of my
Unmute,
meetings.
mute, mute, unmute, mute.
You know the drill.
Of course. So, thank you for coming on today. And there was something specifically I wanted to talk to you about. Because you went on a transition in your life. You lost your corporate job in 2019, and you were in the middle of trying to figure out pursuing your passion and paying bills. And most of us who kind of me, most people don't like to admit it, but I admit it so that people can know I'm broke and I'm looking for opportunities, so you can bring all your money to me, because closed mouths don't get fed, just saying. So when you are living like, when you don't have the safety net, right? And you're living paycheck to paycheck, but you also hate your job, you really want to quit because you have your passion, you have your idea, but it also needs money. The bills need to be paid, right? So, what gave you that push? Oh, how did you end up saying, you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna bet on myself, and we're gonna figure it out and take the leap, because you took the leap and you decided to go and pursue your passion and fuck the corporate world. So let's talk about that journey, and how we can inspire people like me to do the same.
Yes. Well, I think it actually really happened just like you said it. I said, fuck this. I'm betting on myself. And this is the best podcast to be really clear and to the point. I think two things really happened for me. I think we're all in this journey where we want to take the leap, but we have all these excuses holding us back. For me, God made the decision because I was fired from my job. So I wasn't given a choice other than like, hey, do you want to find a job again or do you want to bet on yourself? So for me, I always had an entrepreneurial mind. Like in high school and university, I was always part of like groups for business startups, starting, your own thing. So it was always in the back of my mind. But of course, the 9 to 5 was my excuse. So when I lost that, it was in a time I was already in a transition, meaning I was introduced to the world of voice acting. So my past corporate job, I used to work on the train, so I would make announcement for people. So people really enjoyed my voice and everything. So somebody approached me and told me about, the world of audiobooks, and that's how I started kind of researching that. So just before I get fired, I was already exploring that industry. So when, I had no longer a job, I decided, hey, let me just give it more time, give it more effort. And this is how it chose me. Now, as you said, it was not paying the bills. It was not keeping up with the lifestyle because I lived in Toronto in a small little apartment downtown. And I was never there because my job was always on the go. I would be in hotels mostly. I would just have time to go back home, you do a little bit of laundry, make some food, and go back on. So for me, in the back of my mind, I knew it made no sense. I never saw a future there. I never saw that I could raise a family or that I could, buy that condo or that house. So really the narrative didn't match for me. And I think the second thing was the pandemic, because for me, one was the most life-changing thing ever was to be asked this question. So I was asked one, I don't know if it was a question I was asked, but one of the questions I think the pandemic really reflects is that you have to realize what's the cost? What is it costing you to go make money? So a lot of people who got stuck at home and had to work from home realize, oh my God, I don't have to pay for a bus pass anymore. Oh, I don't have to put gas in my car anymore. Like I'm saving all this money by being home. Like, why would I ever go back? So for me, I remember in my entrepreneurial journey, I really learned that we actually like it's costing us so much to go to work, like our mental health, our physical health, like being on the train, like there's this movement on the train where you're like, I forget what they call it, if it's like frog leg or whatever, but you literally walk like that even when you're off the train. So you're like walking like that. So all of us, we know will have hearing problems. We're going to have knee problems. So for me, it was
Back
like,
pains.
yes, everything. And for me, what really changed everything is that when I got injured in 2017 on the train, like somebody reversed their wheelchair on my tibia and almost like cracked it. And if they
Oh God.
did, I would have had like to put some plates like on my hip for balance.
Oh.
But anyway, it didn't get to that, but I was like on disability and I had never been on disability. I never understood the whole system of, being given a different job than your regular job as you recover, while like insurance and corporate is like just fighting to see who's going to pay you. So in the meanwhile, I was left like at least 3 or 4 months with no pay, trying to figure this thing out, not going to work anymore. I remember being in my apartment one Friday morning and I was like, why is it so noisy here? And then I realized that I've never been home on a Friday, like because I was always working all these years. And I used to work that job. I stayed at that job almost 6 years. Now you have to understand, I started in a different city in Winnipeg, and that was more seasonal. And then I moved to Toronto and kind of climb up the corporate ladder. But for me, I realized at that time that, wow, this job is costing me my health. It's costing me my mental health. And when I was going through the hardest time of my life, they didn't even care. They were pretty much fighting if I was lying about this or not. And of course, this is due to the fact that some people do use the system to their advantage and so on and so forth. So for me, I think the pandemic was a big epiphany because when I actually decided to relocate to Jamaica, like from 2017 to 2020, I was just doing back and forth. But when I saw the whole chaos with like, because I remember like leaving Jamaica one day to back to Toronto and the whole airport was like wearing masks. And it seems like it was the first day they required people to wear masks. So you would see all the people coming from like Caribbean countries, like with their kids not wearing no mask. And then we see all the people coming from Asia with mask on, trying to put mask on their children. And it was like chaos. So I don't know if it was a sign or something, but I was already on my way like to pack everything, store a few things. I was trying to lease my place, but that got complicated. So I decided to just let it go and relocate. And I relocated on March 2nd, 2020. So you can imagine, I think the pandemic hit like mid March. So literally 10 days later, it was the end of the world. But I knew I made the right decision because Toronto downtown became like a ghost town. People were
So wait,
isolated.
sorry, 1 minute, just to cut. So you moved to Jamaica just as the pandemic was start, like literally just as it was, because March, that's when a lot of lockdown was starting to really be serious.
Yes. Like I was already in the plans because at the time my parents were in Texas, San Antonio. So we got virtually married and I got married to my husband really based on, per respect to my parents, per respect to the tradition and culture because of course as an African girl I wasn't leaving Canada to go live with a
With
Jamaican
a
that my
man.
yeah, that my parents never met. So we kind of did the whole traditional thing and we did it virtually. I know I lost a lot of friends, a lot of people due to that, because they're probably thinking, oh, how did she get married and she never told me? But people don't know what you're going through. So November 2019 is when we got married, with the plans that I would come live there. But my plan was more like, instead of doing always the 2 weeks, 1 month, I wanted to go a good 6 months. So that was just the bare plan. So I was slowly working towards that from November to March. But
Mm.
January is really where I got the ding ding ding, like things are going crazy here. Like, pack your things. All my friends still tell me like, wow, you left right on time. Like, did you get some insider info or anything? I was like,
Oh yeah,
no.
cause
Intu-
Canada, cause
intuition.
you met my ex, right? He's in Toronto. You remember at
At the
Afro's?
party? At the part,
Yeah.
yes, yes, I did meet him.
And boy, he was going through it during the pandemic because he had just gone, like, literally had just moved there in January to decide to be closer to his kids, and that
Oh
shit
no.
hit him.
Oh no, terrible. So he moved from where to where? Like, before
Atlanta.
Toronto. Oh wow. Oh, that must have been a shock. That must have been a shock. Yeah, like I hear crazy things, because once I made that move, I ended up staying in Jamaica for almost 3 years. It's like the plan was 6 months and it ended up being almost 3 years. That's a
You're
story in
like,
itself.
fuck it, I ain't going back. And because also it got to a point where literally in Canada, you couldn't travel unless you had the vaccine. Like you couldn't come back in, or you had uh to isolate yourself at the hotel airport, which you pay for it yourself for a certain amount of days. So because he kept on,
Ah,
so he literally would sneak in and out. He would find ways just because he didn't want to get vaccinated. And I was like, I'm not fucking staying at the hotel and paying whatever money when I can go isolate at my own fucking place. Like,
right? It was ridiculous. You should have seen it. At first, I was waiting it out. Then I got sick, like let's say around August. And then I ended up having to apply for residency in Jamaica, because if not, you have to like pay to extend and extend. Because as a Canadian, you can stay there 90 days and then you can extend again for another 90 days. So for me, I got pregnant. So December 2020, I discovered I was going to become a mother. So that was,
y'all just went all in, like, married
yeah, let's
in
do it.
November 2019, March 2020 moved to Jamaica. Then baby, like, y'all just were like,
Girl,
West,
I
the
tell
world is coming
you.
to an end. COVID was like, you better do
Right?
it
Let's do it
now. You
all
better do
before.
it now.
Let's do it now, because I always try to prepare for a zombie apocalypse. Like, if you see me at the gym, there was one reason I went to the gym, is because I was like, I don't want to be bitten because I run out of breath because I can't run. So I was like, no, 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 no. I
I
need.
almost spit my drink.
So it was crazy, because as you said, the Prime Minister of Canada, Trudeau, was like calling back all the Canadians early 2021. But I was sick. I was sick the first 5 months of my pregnancy, so I couldn't leave. My doctor did not recommend that I fly over. So I was like dealing with all this thing, like, am I gonna have the baby here or am I gonna have the baby in Canada? But because I had left Canada for so long already, I was calling in to see, if I would still be covered. So all this thing boiled down, and then yes, Trudeau just closed the borders. And it's funny, a lot of Canadians stayed in Jamaica. They didn't really care. They're like, "Oh, awesome! I can stay here
Oh yeah,
longer."
there was some of my like, because for some reason during the pandemic I met a lot of Canadians through Clubhouse and social media. So I have a big online friends of Canada, and there was some who were chilling in Mexico. Everybody like left. All right,
Yes,
you can
they
cross the
didn't
borders.
care.
We're good.
It's like, we're good, because imagine, like, I'm not sure about the rest of the Caribbean island, but in Jamaica it was really quiet. If you booked a hotel, they would like upgrade you to the nicest room because there was literally 3 guests in the whole hotel.
I
The
swear,
beaches,
traveling around that time was the best time. You
best
get
time.
very good service because there's nobody. People are not overworked because it's not busy. It's not hectic. Like, bruh.
Yeah, service. I don't know if you were getting the best service because the servers were not getting enough tips anymore, and then there was a lot of curfews in Jamaica when the whole thing was happening because they wanted to make sure nobody parties. So, like, sometime on Friday, you had to be home by 3 p.m. So everybody would be running to grocery stores and just pack everything. But what was nice there was no such thing as like, oh, you have COVID, like don't approach me, or people didn't really care. They're like, really, there's COVID? Also, there's no COVID after curfew. But there's like people were making jokes out of it. Of course, like not to make jokes because I know a lot of people lost family members,
But,
but
but
it
but that's the reality. People were making jokes. Like there were a lot of COVID jokes. There's some people until today make COVID jokes. Like that's the reality of the world we live in. And and to some extent in the beginning it was fucking funny because people were choosing how to access COVID. Like at work, everybody wants space, but then at night, people are still crowded in one sitting because we want to have a party. So it was like, okay, y'all are making a mockery of this. Like, how are you
right.
gonna tell me in the supermarket five distance when yesterday I saw you turning up in a small closed space and nobody had masks on or nothing? Like,
Yeah, like in Canada, I remember in January before everything, they were saying, "Oh, flu kills more people. Like you don't have to wear a mask." And then all of a sudden, they're forcing people to wear a mask. So it made no sense whatsoever. And in Jamaica, we till today, I don't think we had more than 200 deaths and not more than 5,000 cases because the cases started going up when people would come from the US to Jamaica for funerals. So they're the ones who started bringing it. But in
bringing
Jamaica
it.
itself, there was not much going on in that sense. And then when
Okay.
he reopened the Canadian borders, I was like 37 weeks. So I was like almost due. So I was like, there's no way I'm going back to Canada. And at the same time, my parents were making a return because my dad also lose his job in Texas. So they were making a return back to Canada. And of course, when you make a return, like paperwork and all that. So I was like, I'm not going to go find a doctor now that I'm almost due. So this is how I ended up having the baby there, August 2021.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
And
how did that transform your entrepreneur world? Because at that moment you were also still pursuing your your pursuing your passion, right? And then you got pregnant, you had a baby, and then so how did that transformation come about?
well, the first transformation I think is that when I got stuck there for a while, I finally decided to invest in myself because I had a friend who was already kind of in the online world, I call it, because unless you understand it, you don't really know what people are doing online and how they make money. So she always told me about, oh, you should be a virtual assistant. I can see you do well in that. And I would just research it in those years. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do any admin work. I don't want to work for someone and like do data entry or anything boring like that. But that year, after being like the first 3 months, I had nothing to do. I would be complaining to my husband, like, oh, I want to go to yoga. I don't have any routine. I'm bored out of my mind because I was used to the go, go, go.
Yeah.
So when I invested in that course, I finally learned the basic of digital marketing and how to promote myself and how to, just the simple things like how to send an invoice and a contract, how to, take clients and so on and so forth. So that really gave me the basis. And
Which course
because
was this?
it's a virtual assistant course,
Oh.
so when I did that, for me, my experience at the time, I was coming from a voiceover background because that's what I had been doing in the
Mm-hmm.
year prior. So I decided to kind of position myself as a editor because, I was familiar with, editing audio, sending self-tape, because you have to audition a lot as a voice actor. So when I positioned myself as an editor, I started attracting a lot of podcasters. So that's how I really got introduced to the podcasting world. And for me, it was amazing. I was like, wow, such an intimate place and platform to just, talk about yourself. And it's not like out there where everybody can listen to it, but most likely you'll be found by people, that can relate to you. So for me, I just fell in love with podcasters. So I started making sure all my friends were podcasters. And when I also invested myself again, I took a coaching course at the end of 2020. So that was all before I even was pregnant. I was now introduced to the world of healing, which again was such an eye opener for me because I have to say, relocating to Jamaica for me was really at the end of the day a healing journey because I really was faced with my own self, coming from the expression, wherever you go, here you are. So I had to face my negative thoughts. I had to face all these excuses that I had made up when I was in Canada to not pursue or to not bet on myself. So now as I was really faced with my own nightmares, like, okay, now you only have yourself. Like, what are you going to do? So for me, at first, of course, I wanted to like, invest locally, connect with the locals. But the pandemic made that really hard because we couldn't go anywhere. And my husband family was very far from where we lived at the time. So this is what pushed me to just continue kind of creating a community online. So the podcast community is what really started my journey. Now, being an editor is not the best because people are usually looking for the cheapest editor out there because I was attracting mainly beginners. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm not good in editing. I'm going to move on to coaching. So that's when I started working with wellness coaches specifically that wanted to start their podcast or have started their podcast, and they're kind of trying to align it with their business. So it's not like two different projects. So this is where I founded Rokhaya.Flow. And then when I became a mother, I have to say pregnancy, it's really my few like clients that kept me going, but I never really created anything new. I was just focused on doing client work because I was so not inspired when I was pregnant. I felt really like blah. I think it's because I love food and I couldn't eat anything. So I wasn't myself. But once the baby came on, I just had a blast of energy. I started going on interviews, and this is how I started, going on conferences. So I just built from there. So once the baby was a bit older, I started doing more interviews like these. And then last year, like he's 2 now, I just took, the leap of faith again to, have some time for myself because sometimes you kind of get lost in trying to please everybody and be everything for everybody. So I had to kind of step back and say, hey, it's mommy time. I've started a business and I have to keep going because I was very thankful, I have to say, that I had built that before becoming a mother. So I never had to call in sick at work. I never had to like take a maternity leave or anything like that. I had my business. So I was just focusing on my clients and then I'm building from there. So we're about 3 years, almost 4 years in business now. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, right? Because I think people always have this thing. Okay, I'm gonna build, but how do I get my first client? Is the pricing right? How do I negotiate? So how did you go about that with your first client? Like, how did you structure that to where you now became comfortable with? I'm pretty sure right now you have also 4 years. You've already upped your price because 4 years, that's a lot of growth by you and a lot of, because every year we are growing in what we are doing, so of course our prices are going to increase because my knowledge has gone up, baby. So and the more awards you win, the more conferences you're talking on, that's your price going up, that's your resume being filled. So that's credibility over there, and with credibility you can price it. So how did you, when you started out, did you structure the pricing and um getting that first client versus how you do it right now?
That's a really good question. And I think it goes back to investing in yourself because I think we all start with we don't really believe in ourselves. We all start with the imposter syndrome and have all these little talks trying to, sabotage our own self. So I think the
Hey,
first
sorry,
thing.
1 minute.
Yes.
I still can't believe y'all allowed me to moderate that panel. Like, y'all believed in me when I couldn't even believe in myself. I was like,
Oh
are
my
they
God.
serious right
You were the best
now?
person to do it, Paula. It's just, sometimes it's just your calling. Like we see it in you. You volunteered a bit reluctant, but we're like, yeah, yeah, you're doing it. That's why I even asked the question again. I'm like, so Paula, you're still doing it? Because I'm like, none of us will be doing it. If you're not gonna do it, we're not gonna do it. It was great. You just have a flair to, set the tone, make everybody feel comfortable. And after that, I was like, yo, I just like put my bag out. I'm like, I'm gonna be talking shit. I didn't even know I was at a panel. At some point, I thought it was
We
like in
felt
my living room.
it lucky felt like we were back in our Zoom meetings, like just four of us talking. So,
Yes.
but continue. Sorry about that.
No, no, no. We're talking shit, so it's all good. But going back to the, how try to attract my first client and set up myself. As I said, the first thing is that if you know you don't believe in yourself, then you're gonna have to replace that by investing in yourself. And what I mean by that is either by having a coach that's gonna be behind you, that will keep you accountable, and who's gonna give you the structure. Because I think that's what stops most people, because at first I would apply, like I would go research virtual assistant and apply for it, and I would see people like hire virtual assistant like in foreign countries and only pay them like $10 an hour. So this is where I learned the journey really of pricing yourself, the journey of growing your business is understanding your worth. Until you understand your worth, you will never be able to price right. Because even if somebody did all the structure for you and tells you, oh, yeah, like I remember my coaching program said, charge at least $500 a month, at least. But if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't feel that you're worth that, you won't be able to make the ask. So I think it's very important to do that inventory of like, what are my skills? What are my strengths? So for me, luckily, because I've been in the entrepreneurial kind of world, I know how to pitch a little bit. I know, how to put myself out there. Some people are afraid to even just go on a Zoom meeting. So if you can't even make a Zoom meeting, you'll struggle because online there's this whole thing of, trust, credibility, and you can only set that by actually connecting with people. And for me, social media was very, very, how can I say? Like I was afraid of it because I felt every time I went on it, like I always say, some cousin from Africa will be calling me for money. Like, man, she's balling. Like, what's happening? But I'm like, no, that's like one day in my life, and it was just a good day. So I posted. But when I learned about digital marketing and how you should be only speaking to one person, for me, my people became podcasters. So then I wasn't afraid to put myself out there. I wasn't afraid to do the ask because I knew I was solving a specific problem. So when you grow into the journey and you know your worth and you're relating to people, people are relating to your story, then you're able to go out there and attract the clients. At first, it's really just like deciding, hey, like for me, I decided, oh, I'm going to talk to wellness coaches. And then I was attracting something completely different. So I had to like rearrange my message. But this is what's great though. Like I find sometimes you put yourself out there and now people like are attracted to me because I live in Jamaica. But at first that story wasn't complete. So I didn't say, hey, I'm gonna help you relocate. I'm gonna help you do that. No, I just had relocated. So the story makes more sense as you grow into it. So I would really say it's about one, invest in yourself. If you still don't believe in your skills, invest in your skills so you can gain that credibility and that trust. And then lastly, know your worth, and you should triple whatever you think your worth is and make sure you always do a reassessment every year. Like for me, every 3 months, I increase my price. There's no say about that because I
I
know
mean,
I'm upgrading my skills.
in Ti's son's words, you stand on business, okay? Standing on
Yes.
business.
Yes.
So,
Own your shit.
out of curiosity, right? Because most of us, when we start shit, we want that so excited about getting that first client, and sometimes we end up with the wrong client or we end up in a wrong investment. So how long did it take you? Because I think we are so in a rush, instead of actually waiting for the right client, we end up getting into stupid shit. So how long did it take you when you started your business until you got your first client?
I actually got my first client really quick. I had a first discovery call that went totally wrong, but that's because I never listened to the module of how to conduct a strategy call. So I never went there. So the teacher was like, "So did you listen to that module before?" I was like, "No, I didn't." So so I literally went into my first discovery call with this really known person on LinkedIn, and I just tried to go through like a PowerPoint presentation. So I never listened to her. I never asked the right question.
You didn't have
So
a conversation versus just
no,
going through it.
not at all. I was like so stressed. I was just like trying to go through everything I had to say. And at the end, she was like, "Okay, well, thanks." Like, it was terrible. But then my second client, which I think really helped, was a referral. That's when I found the power of referral, because during the course, I kind of reached out to a few people that had podcasts. And it was for a market research, because our teacher was like, you should go ask questions about, when people hire VA in that industry, what they make them do and so on. So I had already sent a few emails to a lot of people like, "Hey, are you hiring a VA? Or if you do have one, what do they do for you?" So some people never answered my email, which is okay. But some people took the time to tell me, "Oh, yeah, I have a VA. She does social media for me. She does graphic. She does show notes." So that's how I knew to position myself, by gaining that information. And then one of them just reached out to me after I had reached out to her, like, "Oh, I actually have a client who wants to do, video editing. Could you help her?" And I was like, "Yes, I can help her. Like, even if I have to go learn it right now, I'm going to help her." And then I think because I was referred, the trust is already there.
Oh
So
yeah, the
all you,
credibility, because somebody
yes,
already vetted you for, like, the person who referred you to them has already vetted you for her. So, because if I come and tell you, yo, go hire Paula, she's dope as fuck, because you trust me and you believe me, and you're like, oh man, I really need to go check out Paula. So
so that's exactly it. So somebody already done the work for you. You can have an actual conversation during the presentation instead of being
and
like, "I
especially
do this."
And especially when you have somebody in common, the conversation also becomes easy because you know somebody in common. So it's not going to
Yes,
be awkward conversation. You're like, oh my God, so
exactly.
how did you know her? Oh, I know. And, oh, for real? Oh,
Exactly.
okay.
Exactly. And that's when I understood community was key. And then this girl just said yes. And I think I froze when she said yes. Like, I didn't even know what to say next. I'm like, "What? What? Oh, you're going to be a client?"
You're like, this is happening? You're my first client? We're finally doing this?
Oh my God. I
I'm
remember
getting
opening the door.
paid?
I remember opening the door and calling my husband, "Baby." And he's like,
I'm
"What?"
making money.
"I got my first client."
And so what did you spend the money on your first client? Did you go bougie out there, or did you reinvest it? Because sometimes we get too excited on that first paycheck. We're like, I'm taking myself to have some big ass steak and some
Oh.
margaritas.
I was lucky because at the time I was kind of living a simple life, like going to Jamaica. I wasn't spending that much money. I think I just reinvested it in my business. So I was trying to
No,
like,
that's important.
yeah, I had a list of courses I wanted to take. So I just kept it on the side, and it probably went somewhere in a coaching course of some sort, or yeah.
And just
So
before people come for me, I don't mean you shouldn't celebrate your first client. I'm just saying sometimes we get too excited and spend the entire check on celebrating instead of also reinvesting back in the business so we can keep getting those clients. And that's where some people fail, and that's where other people continue prospering because they take that money and reinvest it back into their business.
yes,
But
yes.
I'm one of those who, whenever I get paid, like, I mean, we all know when payday comes, you start looking at Uber Eats and shit. Like, fuck those noodles in the fridge. Like, it happens. It's part of life. It happens.
Yes.
most of us are guilty about that, but I hope we change our mindset and also like,
Yes, yes.
spend $5, put the rest back in them.
Yes, I think if it was not in the pandemic time, that's what would have happened because there's so much distraction and so much. But being in Jamaica and it's like pandemic time, there was no distraction. So yeah,
You
like
couldn't do shit even if you wanted to. The least you can do is order shit from Amazon, which at that time Amazon Prime was also taking forever to arrive. You're like, fuck this
exactly, exactly,
shit.
exactly. So I reinvested in the business, but yeah, I definitely recommend not to spend it all. Have like a certain percentage, or have certain goals, and when you reach a big goal, then maybe you can spend that paycheck. But because it was
take
my
it,
first
take
client,
yourself
and
on a vacation when you reach a
yeah,
certain goal.
yeah. And I think because it was my first client and it's like deliverables, I have to give her editing, video, and all that. I only asked for half of it first. And then once I deliver everything, she paid the other half. So that helps too to kind of spread it out.
Yeah, because you're
Yeah.
like, okay, this stuff came, we're gonna reinvest this because we still have work to do. And then when the other half comes, when I've finished, I can kind of buy myself a lollipop. Good job. There goes your first client.
Yeah, yes,
But also,
exactly.
I don't know if you know producer Jamie, this incredible woman, and I've met her through Podfest. She's amazing. I actually had her yesterday on here, and she has started a network called Power Moms Network. To
Oh,
yeah, and I feel like I'm letting you know because you're a mother, and I want all the mothers to take advantage of this. It's like a supportive group for people with different creative words, different parts. Some of them have jobs, some of them are creative, some of them are trying to figure out what they want because most of them moms are used to just the title of mom. They don't believe they can offer more or something. So it's always nice to have a community that is supportive, is there for you. And so I think that would be also a nice community for you to join.
yes, definitely. I'll reach out to you for her contacts.
Yeah, I'll send them to her. Shout out to producer Jamie, and she's doing incredible stuff because she was a single mom, and she's big on podcasting. She has been editing and building a podcast network down in Florida and everything.
Oh,
So I
nice.
feel I want all moms out there because you're all a badass. Like to be a mom, to be whether you're a mom and a wife or just a mom, but you're also still a friend, a daughter, you know, you
Yes,
have your own stuff. Like it takes a lot. So
yes.
a community that's willing to help and I've seen how much comes out of communities we belong in, especially when you pour into them and how much they pour back. And sometimes you go there thinking, oh, what's this shit gonna do for me? Like I'm just joining because Paula told me to come join, so I'm just gonna join so that she stops bugging me. But you'll be surprised at how much comes out of it to the extent you're like, damn, why didn't I join sooner? So don't sleep on communities, y'all. Don't sleep on
Yes.
communities.
Community is everything. 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 I commend that. I commend this
Spe-
message.
Speaking of motherhood and wife and all that, how do you, with entrepreneur, business owner, how do you balance?
Oh man, I think it's more I juggle. I don't think there's any balance. Try to juggle it. And then one drops because I'm not a good juggler.
I'm supposed to be like,
Yeah. And then the more things drops, you're just like, man, whatever. Fuck this shit.
I still gotta catch the other one. It's coming.
I feel as long you're still holding yourself, you're good. But that's a really good question. I think I almost want to compare motherhood to the entrepreneurial journey. I think at first you have no idea what you're doing, and then you realize that nobody else know what they're doing. So then you feel a little bit better about yourself. And in that journey, as you meet other people, as you say, as you build a community and you don't feel so lonely, then you're able through other people's stories. So I think for me, what really saved me is hearing other people's story that were going through the same thing as me. One of the first podcasts that really changed everything for me. Shout out to Kristen, Flourish in Foreign. She helps people pretty much, start their business abroad. She's located in Spain. So when I listened to that podcast, I was like, oh my God, so there is other women doing what I'm doing. Because for me, as I said, it was never a choice. I never like had a budget and be like, oh, I'm going to go relocate here. No, it just happened to me. And then the rest of the journey, as I explained to you, motherhood, I never planned to be a mother abroad. So the balance is really at the end finding out that you have to take time for yourself. You have to be the priority, because at some point in motherhood, you kind of lose sight of that. You think that the baby may be the priority or the husband may be the priority because the relationship is changing. But for me, I had to step back of all that in 2021, especially 2022. I had to realize that if I wanted my business to thrive and not be just a side hustle, because that's what usually happens when you don't give it the importance or the space it needs, I had
Or
to,
the discipline.
yes. I wouldn't, I would say that I'm still not really disciplined, but it's
I'm
more,
learning.
it's really like to commit to something small. I remember Danielle, who was founder of Women of Color Podcasters, really helped me see that, because for
Oh
me, I
my
just,
God, I was with her at Podfest.
yes, I saw the picture. And guess what? I met her and I never took a picture. So I need to go
She
to
was your
another.
roomie. Like, yo,
I
when she,
know. We talked so much. We were talking and talking so
but
much.
it happens. It happens sometimes. Even us
Yes.
coming back from Podfest, we're like, oh my God, we hanged out so much together and we didn't even have one picture. But when you're with somebody so much compared to when you just have a few minutes with somebody and you gotta go, you remember a
Exactly.
picture. But when you know, like, oh, I'm gonna find her in the room. Oh, we are having lunch together. It just slips away, and then next thing you know, oh, she's gone.
She's gone. So it's on my bucket list now. I have to take a picture with Danielle. Like, I have to. So for her, she really nailed it down to committing to one activity. So in 2022, it really light up for me that the only thing I had to focus on was to connect like with people like you, like tell my story so I would find my people. So I just started focusing on that, telling my story about Jamaica and everything, and people just started coming to me, and those connection are genuine. It's not like I had to create a post to get followers. Like my numbers are just going up because I really met the person, or we really connected on this platform, or we met in this community. So when you discover that, you really discover that the best balance is to be balanced with your own self and making sure to check in with yourself. Like, what did I do for myself today? What did I do? Not even necessarily your business, because your business is not going to grow until you are growing
Growing.
yourself. Yeah. So when I understood that, that's when I really made the step of like going to conferences. So I didn't feel bad anymore. I was almost like, okay, daddy, it's daddy time. I remember my first conference was podcast movement,
Mm-hmm.
and I left on my husband's birthday and I came the day after my son's birthday. So that was really clear. Like, it's my time. Like, I'm not celebrating none of your birthdays. I'm celebrating me. And I
I
just
mean,
like,
I married you and I gave birth to you, so I deserve to celebrate me for doing those
yes,
on your birthday.
yes,
But I love
exactly.
that, and something you said, right? Oh my God, literally, I just had it. But there was also another thing. Maybe that one will come back to me. When you say that being a mother is like an entrepreneur journey, it's funny because Jamie yesterday also said that as long as you're a mother, you already are a business owner because all the qualities of being a mother is as a business. You have to negotiate with your kid. You learn how to negotiate. You learn how to prioritize. You learn how to budget. So those
Yes.
are the same qualities that you put on your business, but so it's just and this is why I love talking about mindset switch and mindset. Like you just gotta switch that mindset of yours and look at it in the other side, and you'll be like, oh wow, I have the qualities to fucking run a business, to own something, because I'm running this kid right now, right?
Definitely, definitely. Like even the mindset of like I wasn't worried anymore after the baby to get clients. I was like, that's not even my priority. And now I'm lending all these podcasts appearance and everything. And I'm like, I haven't even done no work. It's just a connection leads another connection and leads, and that makes it fun. It's no longer like I have to go sit in front of my computers and try to find a guest or like you're trying to appear somewhere. So when it becomes natural, you'll see the growth is just amazing. And I think that's where your kids are going to look up to. They can say, oh, my mom, pursued her dreams, she pursued her goal, because looking at my own parents and our just our ancestors in general, they sacrificed so much of themselves. And thank you. I always say, I think I saw it in a t-shirt, we are our ancestor wildest dreams, because they wanted to be
Yeah.
us and we get to be their dreams. So hey, who am I to not continue
People,
that? Who am
yeah.
I to not tell my children, hey, be yourself, become yourself? I think if I just stay home, I become just very resentful, because I'm like, oh, I'm doing all this and these people are not seeing my worth. So it always go back again. Don't lose sight of your worth. If you don't lose sight of your worth, you know that you're worth more than just being a mother or just a wife or just a daughter. We are so many different things. And I love how she put it together. It's very much like entrepreneurial journey, because it's all about growth. Yeah.
That's why I think she created this community so that the mothers, those who are feeling like I'm just a mom, no, you're more than just a mom, to get inspired, to get motivated, to figure some shit out. But
Yes.
I remembered what I was also going to say. It was when you said your story brings your community. I always tell people, that's why I say podcasting served my mental health, because I started sharing my story and it started giving me the communities that I needed, the support that I needed. And also, I keep on telling people your story matters. Like your story, it does matter, because somebody out there is waiting to hear it so they can connect with you. And those connections become so genuine, more than the connections that you've actually had in your life more for the longest time. Like it's amazing how the podcasting world, the friendships I've created that have gone from just being podcasting to personal to deeper to, and these are people who I just met in the last 4 years. They are bringing so much more to me than actually the people who have known all my life. But it's also one thing people say, oh, how come I don't see that in my community? So just because you're in a community doesn't mean you just have to be in a community. You have to show up in every of those shit, even support those shit. Don't ask to be to be like I don't want to come and be like, yo, can you support me? No, see, I'm doing my shit, just support. And it gets seen, because I do all this shit and I didn't know that people were watching or people were saying. I went to Podfest, I got awarded Community Hero Award. And I'm like, and I wasn't even doing it for the award. I was just giving back to a community that's giving me so much. But people see your growth, people like this podcast was so emotional, but my head got so big because of how many people were coming up to me after my presentation, after my MC, after my word, just to remind me that, to give me the assurance that we don't get. Because when we do this job, trust me, y'all people are so sucky at giving reviews or feedback. Like, we really need to pull them out of you. So when we hear that, we get that assurance, it fuels us to continue moving and doing what we love doing. So
Yes.
shout out to everybody out there who, especially when you refer somebody. I like somebody who comes to me and be like, "Oh, Paula told me to come meet with you because you're this and this." Refer people to people. Like, it's such a beautiful thing. It's another way of supporting. If I know I can't afford your services, that's fine. What I can do is I can share them.
Yes.
I can tell people about them. I can send people to you. That's other forms of support. People assume that support always has to be, I have to buy your course, I have to come to your event. No, we know financial, we are not, not everybody is there, but there's
Yes.
more to support than financial support.
Yes. I'm so proud of you, by the way. Congratulations again. I'm so sad I missed Podfest. I was busy like trying to come back here. But
Next year, don't miss it next year. Don't miss it next year.
yes.
Oh,
And
by the way, I'm
yes.
gonna send. I don't know if you are in the email list, but they sent out an email yesterday for early bids for speakers. So if you want to apply for the speaker, I can forward the email to you.
Yes,
They're
please
looking. The
forward it.
speakers are applying now until the deadline is March 13, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, do send it to me. I'd love that. I'd love that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now we are coming to the end of this. Before we go, please let the people know. Leave them with wise words or advice on betting on themselves and just going after their passion, and then also let the people know where they can find you. You can sell. Right now is a place for you to sell yourself and sell your business, what you do, how they can find you, and all that good stuff.
Yes, definitely. Well, word of wisdom, I would say to end this is that whatever plan you have, God have a better plan for you. So the leap of faith is really having that faith in yourself that you already have all the skills. And I'm sure you hear that a lot, but it's true in the sense that they might not be matured skills or, developed skills, but they're there. Like your mission has been already put in you. Now you have to do the work to put it out there, because even just in this mentioning the story, as you said, it's because I shared my story with Afro and Audio that we were put in the same panel and that we were able to meet today. If I had never shared that story, I don't think we've had ever meet, or at least there would have been a big delay. So I
Mm-hmm.
really understand now that we used to say, I think I saw a nice post about that. We used to say, hey, share your story in the safe platform. But I think it's really about finding a sacred platform, because I tried to tell my story in the time I was the most hurt, and I realized that the audience I shared it with was not my community, as you said. You really have to find that sacred place. And that's how we founded Rokhaya.Flow. So Rokhaya.Flow is a voice and podcasting platform where we help really people align their narrative with their business and their podcast so they can gain visibility and really create that raving fan community. So you can find me on Instagram, any platform, Twitter, LinkedIn, and TikTok under Rokhaya.Flow. And it was a pleasure, as usual, to meet you, Paula. And I hope to see you because I'm not going to miss Afro and Audio. I'll
Me
be there.
neither. Like that's already a new tradition. So I'm looking forward to that. And
Yes.
in my Empowered Podcasting Clubhouse room, we're also doing an event in June for any creators who wants to come. It's going to be a little bit of some panels, some conversation, but we're concentrating on content creating so people can collaborate together and create content and all that. So if you guys are interested in knowing more about that, reach out to me or join the Empowered Podcasting Room on in Facebook or come to our Clubhouse room. And if you're in Atlanta, I'm hosting the Pod Atlanta meetup this February, which is going to be on the 29th of February, which for those in New York,
Ooh.
Black Podcast Association are also having their second annual Black History Month meetup on February 29th. So go support, go show up, go get involved in your communities. And if you don't have a community in your city, start one. You have the
Exactly.
power to start, So thank you all for hanging out with us at Shit Happens, where shit always happens.